Nora was 34 years old the morning she stood in her kitchen and realized she did not know how she liked her coffee. She had been making it with 2 sugars and a splash of oat milk for 6 years, because that was how Daniel liked it, and somewhere along the way she had simply adopted his preference as her own. She had done that with so many things: his taste in films, his opinion on which friends were worth keeping, his idea of what a good life looked like. She stood there, spoon hovering over the mug, and thought, "Do I even like sweet coffee?" She could not answer. The question dissolved into a fog she did not know had been gathering inside her for years. Nora was the kind of woman people called generous, the kind who remembered every birthday, who stayed late to help a friend move, who said, "Whatever you want," when asked where to eat, and meant it mostly, because she had slowly stopped wanting things of her own. She had given her opinions to Daniel, her time to her job, her energy to her mother, who called every day with quiet demands dressed as questions, her softness to everyone who knocked on the door of her heart. There was nothing left for her. She didn't know this yet. She thought she was simply tired. She thought it was stress, the weather, a vitamin deficiency. She made the coffee with 2 sugars, sat down at the table, and felt, without knowing why, like crying. 3 months later, Daniel left. He didn't leave badly. There was no scene, no cruelty. He simply said he felt like they had grown apart, that he cared for her but wasn't sure he was in love anymore. He said it kindly, which somehow made it worse. Nora expected to fall apart, and she did, for a while, sitting on the bathroom floor at 2 a.m, wondering who she was without the shape of him to lean against. But then something unexpected happened. One evening, about 6 weeks after he'd gone, she ordered dinner from a little Thai place she'd always wanted to try, but Daniel hadn't been interested in. She sat alone at her table with a bowl of khao soi, and it was the best thing she had eaten in years. Not because of the food, though it was wonderful, but because she had chosen it, she had wanted it, and she had gone and gotten it, without asking permission or deferring to someone else's preference. It was such a small thing, a bowl of soup, but for Nora, it felt like pressing her hand into wet cement and watching the imprint stay. She started to notice other things: the books she'd been putting off reading, a desire to wake up early and walk by the river, which she had always thought she wasn't the type to do. She was, it turned out. She loved it. She loved the cold air and the sound of the water and the solitude of it, the way the world hadn't started yet, and it was just her and the morning. She signed up for a pottery class, mostly because she'd seen it advertised, and felt a small pull in her chest that she was finally learning to listen to. She was terrible at it. Here is what the self-love stories usually skip. It is not pretty at first. It is not bubble baths and journaling, though those things have their place. It is harder than that. It is sitting with yourself in silence and not immediately reaching for your phone. It is looking at your own patterns, the way you agree to things you resent, the way you shrink to make others comfortable, and not flinching from what you see. It is the strained grief of realizing you have not been meeting your own most basic needs, and that no one else can be blamed for that entirely, because you were the one opening the door and waving yourself away. Nora's therapist, a practical woman named Dr. Osei, who spoke plainly and had a laugh that filled the room, told her something that she wrote on a sticky note and kept on her bathroom mirror for a year. You cannot pour from a cup that has never been filled. But more than that, you have been pouring from a cup you forgot to hold. Nora thought about that for a long time. She had believed, her whole life, that selflessness was the highest virtue, that to want things for yourself was greedy, that love meant sacrifice, and the more you gave, the more worthy you were. But you cannot truly give what you do not have, and you cannot know who you are to someone else if you don't first know who you are to yourself. She started setting small limits, saying no to things she had always said yes to out of obligation. She told her mother that she could only take calls twice a week, lovingly but clearly, and her mother was upset for 2 weeks and then adjusted. She declined a project at work that would have eaten her weekends, and nothing collapsed. She let herself stay home on a Friday night because she wanted to read, and did not feel guilty about it. Each small act of self-regard felt at first like breaking a rule. A year after Daniel had gone, Nora sat in the same kitchen at the same table. But she was different now. Not dramatically, not in the way that makes a good before and after photograph. More like soil that has been turned. More like a window that has been cleaned. She made her coffee, black with 1 sugar. That was how she liked it, she had discovered, bold and just barely sweet. She had also discovered that she liked silence in the mornings. that she was funnier than she had thought when she felt safe enough to be, that she had opinions, strong ones, that she had been swallowing for years because she feared they would make her difficult to love, that she was not in fact difficult to love, she was just difficult to disappear. She met someone new that spring, a man named Marcus who was patient and curious and laughed easily. On their third date, he asked her what she was passionate about, and she answered without hesitation. She talked about the pottery class, about the river walks, about the essay she'd been writing. She did not make herself smaller so he would feel larger. She did not perform ease while feeling anxious underneath it. She was just there, present, herself. He looked to her across the table and said, "You seem very comfortable in your own skin." And she had laughed, because a year ago the sentence would have felt foreign, even mocking. Now it felt like an accurate observation. She had not found herself by searching for herself. She had found herself by staying, by refusing to keep leaving the room every time her needs walked in. This is not a story about a woman who learned to love herself instead of others. It is a story about a woman who learned that the two are not in opposition. When you know yourself, your real preferences, your limits, your values, your wounds, you bring something genuine to every room you walk into. You give from fullness instead of fear. You love people not because you need them to complete you, but because you genuinely choose them. And that kind of love, chosen, free, grounded, is the only kind that lasts. Loving yourself first does not mean loving others less. It means that when you offer someone your time, your attention, your care, it is real. It is not performance. It is not a quiet, desperate bid for approval. It is a gift, freely given, by a person who knows her own worth. You are not too much. You are not a burden. You are not selfish for needing rest, for wanting things, for drawing lines around what you can and cannot carry. You are in fact the one person in the world you are absolutely guaranteed to spend the rest of your life with. Shouldn't that person be someone you know? Someone you're kind to? Someone you trust?